Hey everybody, welcome to Dead Meat. I'm James A. Janice, and today I'm going to be answering some of the questions you've asked me. I made a video about a week ago asking for questions from you, and it broke all of my comment records because you guys left me over 10,000 comments on that video. That's a lot of questions, man. Obviously, I can't answer all of those, but I did choose a healthy selection that I'll be answering over the next however many minutes. Knowing my videos, probably between 10 and 15. So let's just get into it. So a bunch of you, including Hood the Savior, Not a Terrible Player, and Evan Studios, wanted to know where the name Dead Meat comes from. In fact, this might have been my most popular question, kind of hard to figure out when there are 10,000 comments. But that name actually does come from the line in Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. The kids at the summer camp are all hiding from Jason, and one of the kids asks the other,
"What do you think?"
I think we're dead meat.
It's a popular line from the movie, and I really liked it, so I just put that name on a list with many others when I was trying to figure out what to call the channel. I started working on this channel probably in November of 2016, and it wasn't until January that I had settled on the name. Prior to that, I was just doing the work because I knew it had to get done, and when it came to picking a name, I did make a huge list of like a ton of options. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones I had. I think like Running in the Woods was one of them. Hold on, I actually just scrolled to the post that I made on Facebook when I was trying to come up with a name. On January 4th, 2017, I made a post saying, "Need help naming a horror movie YouTube channel I'll be launching soon. I'm very bad at naming things, and I hate it so much." Looks like the options included Running Upstairs, Rising from Behind, Inside the House, Dwindling Party, The Creep Station, Night Swim, Ominous Fog, and last on this list is Dead Meat. And honestly, no one really said Dead Meat in the comments. I'm looking at them right now. I think I went with it because it's really simple, and it's easy to spell, and because when I checked on social media, it was available on YouTube, and then when that wasn't available on like Twitter and Facebook, Dead Meat James was. I think the most important thing when naming something like a YouTube channel is to make sure that it's simple and that people could spell it. The first channel that I launched was called Comediocracy, and you can try to spell it, go ahead, and maybe you'll get it, but a lot of people didn't, and that's why we eventually changed our name to Practical Folks. I feel like Dead Meat manages to both tell you this is a horror channel, and it's a simple name, it's kind of catchy, it's kind of funny. As someone who, like I said, has a very hard time naming things and is usually unhappy with the name later, I'm very happy with Dead Meat. I made the right choice there. Here's a fun one from Lachlan McBurger Buns. If I could make a horror Mount Rushmore, who would I put on it? Well, I feel like it's pretty obvious that 3 of those 4 faces are gonna be Freddy, Jason, and Michael. Michael Myers and Halloween pretty much launched the slasher genre into the mainstream. Jason and his hockey mask has become an iconic image that everyone knows. And Freddy Krueger, like I said, was all over pop culture in the 80s and 90s and is still one of the most recognizable horror figures. So it's kind of stacked that those 3 fill up 75% of the slots and only leaves me with 1. And of course, there are tons of options for that 4th person. Maybe Leatherface, maybe Pinhead, maybe Ghostface. But no, I think I'd have to put Chucky up there. I just think that more people in like the general populace that isn't super into horror movies would recognize Chucky over anyone else. Like, yeah, Leatherface is definitely up there, but I'm not sure if most people would look at him and be like, "Oh yeah, that's Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre." I think anyone sees Chucky and they're like, "That's that fucking killer doll, man. That's that Chucky motherfucker." Plus, can you imagine someone trying to chisel Pinhead into a mountainside? That's just cruel, man. He would have such blisters to show you. Joshler Dunseth asks if I can solve a Rubik's Cube. No, I cannot. I had some friends in high school who could do it. I never learned the trick. Betcha I could solve a lament configuration, though. Another question a lot of you had, such as Son of Borat, Blue Firefox, and Josh Mickelson, is what is my favorite non-horror movie? By now, you all know that my favorite horror movie is The Thing. If you somehow missed that information, check out the video I made with Foundflix where he and I discuss why it's so awesome, because it is the best horror movie. As far as like favorite movie ever goes, I mean, first off, I really hate choosing just a favorite thing. It's very difficult for me to pick one thing out of a population of like the hundreds of thousands and be like, this one's the best. I did it with The Thing because everyone's always fucking asking me what my favorite horror movie is, and because that thing is fucking dope. But for me, I like lots of different things for lots of different reasons, and it's hard for me to say that the reasons I like one thing are more important than the reasons I really like another thing. For most of my life, the answer to this question, what's my favorite movie, was Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars is very important to me, as you can probably tell by all the references I make to it in both the Kill Count and the Drunk Disney series on my other channel, Practical Folks.
Maybe he was just trying to get a look at Alice's sweet Luke Skywalker cosplay. Nailed it, and the rest of the straight talking group gets trapped inside their room as the walls start closing in around them like a trash compactor on the Death Star.
They're gonna rule the galaxy as father and son.
Stay on target. Stay on target. You're all clear, kid. Let's blow this thing and go home. Both the original and the prequel trilogy I've seen like hundreds of times probably and know most of those lines. And Empire is to me obviously the best Star Wars movie. It just feels really mature and is really well made from a filmmaking perspective. But I gotta say that in the past couple of years, The Royal Tenenbaums has just kind of snuck its way into my #1 spot. Wes Anderson is one of my favorite directors. I know that a lot of people don't like him, and that's cool if you don't because his style is very particular. And I also totally get the criticism that he pretty much does the same thing over and over and over again. Or that like he's super hipster, because he really is. But for me, that style just really works. I love all of his movies. I mean, some less than others, Bottle Rocket, Darjeeling. But Royal Tenenbaums is a movie that just kind of works on me in a lot of different ways. The sense of humor in those movies is one of my favorite things because it's really understated and sad.
Did you say you're on mescaline?
I did indeed. Very much so.
So many of the characters in his movies are just really depressed, and yet you see them while they're depressed making really dry jokes and just kind of making light of the situation and themselves.
You're joking.
No.
No, I want to die.
And for me, that just kind of rings true in life. I'm not sad often, but even in my like darkest hours, I feel like I've always been able to at least see something that's funny about it. Even if it's not funny to me at the time. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's why Wes Anderson movies really work for me, along with the cinematography, which I think is striking, and his amazing soundtracks. And Royal Tenenbaums is just my favorite because it kind of speaks to me on a personal level. I kind of relate to a lot of the interpersonal things going on in it. And I will say that every single time I watch that movie, I cry at the end. I don't want to spoil it in case you've never seen it and you're like, oh, maybe I'll check it out since that's James's favorite movie. But at the end, there's like a montage because something happens, and every single time I'm just bawling my fucking eyes out, man. Even just thinking about it right now, it's like, damn, that's real shit, man. Any movie that can make me laugh and cry is just, yeah, I love it. And now I'm gonna spend some time answering questions that you've asked about my job and just about like working in general. So a whole bunch of you, including Carter Hinkle and Billy, have asked me what my previous job was before YouTube. The job I had for about 1.5 years before leaving it to do Dead Meat full time was editing videos for Fox broadcasting shows for their online content. I'm talking about shows that are on the Fox network, things like Empire, Star were the really big ones, the animated shows like The Simpsons, Family Guy, Bob's Burgers. I did a lot of work with Last Man on Earth, Lucifer, basically any show on Fox I've worked with. And I would make videos for them to post on their social media sites or on their YouTube channels. The videos could be recaps, they could be like supercuts of things, they could be like fun little mashups. And I was employed through a company called Fullscreen. If you look them up, they're doing very well right now, and they have clients such as Fox who they'll send their workers to do this kind of thing. So I worked for Fullscreen, and then I would go to Fox every day because Fox was Fullscreen's client and I was kind of Fullscreen's representative editor there. I'll actually link in the description below some of the videos that I made for Fox that are on their channels that I'm really proud of. And if you're into any of those shows, make sure you follow their YouTube channels and social media because Fox is still a Fullscreen client, and Fullscreen has tons of very talented editors. People who are just as or more talented than me when it comes to editing. And so those people are still making video content for those shows, and if you like them, they're really fun to watch. So check them out. Yeah, I'll include some links down there. And Clemente Perez asked an additional question, did I love it or hate it? It was definitely on the more love it side. Fullscreen is an amazing company to work for. They have great benefits and they're very cool there, just very chill people. If you're in Los Angeles and you're into video editing or social media stuff, you don't have to know video editing to work there. Look them up, man. They are a very good company to work for. And the people I worked alongside at Fox were also very cool. I feel super lucky because I know that like the general stereotype is just that people complain about their bosses, but for me, I have 5 different bosses and all of them were awesome. That being said, I've always just had this kind of weird issue when it comes to working at jobs because I've always had my own side project that I always just care about more. And throughout the years, I've always tried to balance those like personal creative endeavors with the job that was paying me to live. And sometimes I would balance it better than others, but I feel like I did a pretty good job with Fox and Fullscreen. But I also just kind of have this issue with the whole like 9-to-5 lifestyle in general, like driving to work and spending 9 or 10 hours there and then driving back home 5 days a week. It doesn't make sense to me. So much work can be done from home. I think different working hours would be way cooler. Like I really feel like we're working in a very antiquated system with the technology and society that we have nowadays. And then of course you do these creative things and then you get like sometimes stifled creatively. Although I will say that if it weren't for that job, there's no way I would be the editor I am today. I learned so much from both like a technical standpoint and a creative standpoint because the producers I would work with would have really good notes for me that I 100% credit that job for making me like the super editor that I am today. Well, that and Drunk Disney, which gave me plenty of hours of experience before that. And in fact, it was partially Drunk Disney and my work on the Practical Folks YouTube YouTube channel that got me the job at Fox or Fullscreen in the first place. The people there saw that work and were like, oh, you know how to edit and do this stuff and make these mashups and fun, interesting internet things. We want you here. So for anyone making videos on your YouTube channel, know that it can lead to a job if you pursue it. At the very least, even if your channel's not getting popular, you can use it as an example of the work that you can do. John Free asks how I finally decided to leave my job and do YouTube full time. So this one was a tricky one, but I always think back to something I heard at a panel at VidCon. I can't remember the creator who said it, but she was a person who was working with her family and they had like a family YouTube channel. And the thing she said was that she didn't leave her other job until she was losing more money by going to that job. And that's an important distinction to make because it's not when she's making the same amount on YouTube as she was at her former job. It's when like going to work is actually costing her money because of the work she could be doing on YouTube. So that's kind of what I waited for, and it was a very painful wait to get there. As you probably know, YouTube's ad revenue stuff is jumping all over the place all the time, and it wasn't until September that I finally got full ads on all my videos, so my revenue spiked up in a way where I was looking at the numbers and I was like, oh, this is how YouTubers do this for real. Because prior to that, I had videos with over 1 million views, and yet my revenue income would be so minimal. It'd be like peanuts, and I was like, how do people fucking be YouTubers? But yeah, halfway through September, that changed, and then October was a very big month for me between the Friday the 13th that happened there and, of course, Halloween. And so after I saw the numbers in October, I was like, you know what? I think if I leave my actual job and do this full time and produce twice as much content, that this could actually really work for me. And so that's why I left my job in November, and December kind of just like proved to me that was a good choice, dude. Good work. So basically, if you do YouTube and you want that as a career, which I can't really recommend because I got super lucky after working like 4 or 5 years at this, don't do it unless like you feel like you'll be safe. Or I guess if you're younger and you feel like you can take that chance, then have at it. In fact, a few years ago in 2014 and 2015, so I would have been like 24, 25, 26, I did leave working full time and tried to be an actor. And man, did that not work out for me. Maybe because I'm not a good actor. But yeah, for like 1.5 years, I was just doing freelance jobs, doing some editing stuff, going to auditions, doing background work, and it definitely didn't work out. I barely made enough money to make rent, let alone like do social things or eat. And that period of time ended with me just being like, oh shit, I need a job. And I worked at Starbucks for 6 months. So that period of my life is kind of looked at with like, oh dude, you kind of fucked up there. But then again, a lot of the things that I learned during that period, I've applied to later parts of my life. And I think that I wouldn't be the person I am and I wouldn't have Dead Meat if it weren't for that. And also by taking that chance earlier and having it not work out, I knew that this time through, I wanted to make sure that I was super stable before taking that step. And it definitely worked out. So good job, Past James, for fucking up. Wrench Killer asks if it was ever hard to balance that previous job that I had with my YouTube channel. And yes, it was. Oh God, yes. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Most of you probably know from editing streams and just general comments that I make in these videos that this is a lot of work. Doing this channel and making the videos is a ton of work. It definitely is a full-time job by itself. So when I had to do this, plus my other actual full-time job, I was going insane, man. I think the channel first started to really hit its stride in June with some of the later Friday the 13th videos. That was when it started to blow up a little bit. And after that happened, I knew that I wanted to commit to it and just keep working on it so it could be my job. And so this is an answer to Wrench Killer's other part of his question, was there stuff that kept me motivated to keep doing it? To me, I saw the potential in Dead Meat, and I knew that if I could play my cards right, this could be something that I did actually by itself for my job. And so that's what kept me going. And I also just have this weird personality where like I always have to be doing something and accomplishing something. Longtime Practical Folks fans who have watched our vlogs probably already know this about me. But yeah, I just always have to be doing something. Like chilling is just a foreign kind of concept to me. That being said, it was still extremely difficult to make the time to do both full-time jobs, because even before I left Fox, Dead Meat was a full-time job for me. So how that broke down was I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning, I would leave my apartment by 6 to get to work by like 6:30 or 7, and then I would work on Dead Meat stuff from 7 to 8. Then I would do my Fox and Fullscreen job from 8 to noon, and then on my hour-long lunch break, I would actually just get food real fast and sit at my desk and work on Dead Meat stuff. And then after lunch, I would work until 5, leave and get home at about 6, and then work on Dead Meat until like 9 or 10 at night. Sometimes later, although I tried to cut off at that time so I could spend a few hours with Chelsea at the end of each day. But I wouldn't be getting to bed until midnight or more often later than that, like 1. And then the next day, it was back to it, man, at 5:30 in the morning. So for about 6 months of my life, I was getting like 5 hours of sleep or less every night. It was brutal on me. I was exhausted fasted all the time. I stopped working out and eating healthy because I just didn't have the time for it. And forget about having any kind of social life. That went out the window completely. But I made those sacrifices for 6 months because I felt like if I kept at it, it would be worth it. And it ended up being true. Whoa, look at the time. This video ended up being longer than I thought it would be. Guess you just can't stop an old man from yammering like that. So let me cut this video off right now, but don't worry, I recorded more answers while sitting right here, and I'll edit them into a follow-up video very soon. And I'll also continue to make these question and answer videos because you guys had a lot of questions, and I have a lot of answers. So thanks a lot for watching. Keep an eye out for the next part of these, and this Friday we'll get back into Nightmare with Nightmare 4: The Dream Master. All right, y'all, be good people.